Thank you all for coming. This is the first workshop for the City Centre Sustainable Housing Competition. And basically, it's going to be fairly informal. We're going to introduce why we're doing the competition again. We ran it very successfully last year. And hopefully we've learnt a bit, and hopefully the schools of architecture have learnt a little bit. And we're going to get even better entries and even better ideas. So the emphasis is different this year. It's going to be in a different city and a very different site. So it should be exciting, a lot of kind of new learning and new thinking. And we've got about 2 hours. We may not take all of that time. We're going to have 3 speakers. Riëtte is going to, who's at NMU, is going to talk through the site in some detail, and you can ask her questions. And Francine, who is responsible for the kind of mechanics of the competition, is going to talk about that at the end. So there'll be lots of opportunities to ask questions. And we hope it's informal and enjoyable. So to start off with, what I'm going to cover is a little bit on who's running the competition, why they're running it, and a little bit on why. Why is this an issue? Why is it an important thing to have a competition on? Where is what Riëtte is going to cover, and then how is very much what Francine is going to cover. So who? The main organizers are the CIB. CIB is a big international building research organization that has different working groups. I coordinate a group called Smart and Sustainable Built Environments. There's another on informal settlements. There are quite a few people who run working groups in South Africa. So it's got a strong network internationally. And one of the interesting things that we're having this year is a couple of international competitors, which will be fun. Francine might mention that a little bit later. The second thing is really the sponsors. The sponsors make the competition. The NHBRC will be funding the prizes, and Burgertman and partners will be funding all the printing. So they're giving fantastic value and support for the competition. Last year we had Human Settlements, NHBRC, Burgertman and partners, CSR, the PIA, a very nice mixture of architects, science, industry, really judging the process of very independent, driven really by the terms of reference, by the brief, and good practice, best practice, locally and internationally. So we're very pleased to have them on board again. And then in terms of the organizing team, and you're going to meet various members as we go through some of these workshops. So Francine, you might have had an email from Prof. Mbanga. You'll hear next week at the lectures. Isaac and Busi, who are both from the NHBRC, and certainly they will be talking towards the end of the set of workshops. Theo from the CIB, PD also from a working group, me, Jeremy Gibberd, and there'll be others. So we're going to draw people in as we go along. Okay, so let's get into the detail. What is important here is really to say why are we running this competition again. We have a whole set of interesting questions in South Africa, and one of the primary ones from 1994 is this idea of a constitution where we define very specific rights. So rights around the environment, housing, education, health, children. So children have a whole set of rights. How do we address and fulfill those in housing, in human settlements? The same thing when we look at climate change, that has ramped up very significantly in the last 5-10 years. And we need to pull our weight as the built environment far more than we have done in the past. So one of the things that we need to do, we need to think through in terms of human settlements is really make sure that we understand climate change, we understand carbon emission projections. We need to understand the Sustainable Development Goals. And what we need to do is we need to think through what does this mean for the way we design housing, the way we design human settlements. What is their contribution? How can we make this graph green? How can we follow the blue line and get trajectories really under the 1.5 degree centigrade? We already have major climate change. And again, this information is fairly readily available. So we're going to have very... Sorry, can you put yourself on mute? Yeah, so we're going to have increasing temperatures, more very hot days, so days when they're continuously hot, over a week, over 3 or 4 days, places like Limpopo, etc. We're going to get more storms, erratic weather conditions. We've already had flooding in places like Durban, and scarcity associated with climate change, heavy rain, flood, etc. So how do we design housing to cope and accommodate with that change? The next thing is there's a very interesting new paper. Bit of an echo, sorry about that. And what the white paper covers is it covers many of the kind of key issues around climate change, informal upgrading, etc. So you can download this from the Human Settlements website, and you can say, let's use this project to test some of the ideas and give feedback in a constructive way to the Department of Human Settlements. We know what current government projects are like. What can we learn from them? How can we improve these? There are many around many of the cities. We can go and look at them. We can talk to government officials, and we can learn how to develop more sustainable housing models. Many of you live in modern housing developments. So again, you'll be very aware of the problems, some of the good aspects. And again, what's really important is to kind of learn from those models and say, going forward, what do we want to do? How do we improve and learn from those models? What's successful and what is not so successful? We have informal settlements really in kind of all of our cities. So what sorry, we're getting people in traffic. I'm going to mute a couple more people. Basically living in informal settlements. So again, what can we learn from aspects of informal settlement? Brinkley, can you hear me?
Mike.
I'm just checking that you can hear me. Is that okay?
Yes, can hear you
Okay.
indeed.
No,
I'm
that's
asking
fine.
on the chat group for everyone to please switch off their
They're
microphones.
mute. Okay, thank you. Because yes, there's a bit of background noise coming through. Thank you. So very important to kind of learn from what works, some of the patterns, and obviously learn from what doesn't work as well. We've had some, horrendous recent experiences in inner cities, particularly in Joburg, hijacked buildings, and a major question is, how do you design housing that works in inner cities that doesn't experience some of the problems that we're now seeing in some of our cities? If we think about this at a higher level, housing fits into cities. And if we look at a lot of South African cities, they're very segregated. There are areas where there's more Black African, colored, white, Indian, etc. So they're not integrated cities. And this particular map is from Stats SA. You can look it up and you can see where your site is. And you can see it's a very segregated city. So again, how do you develop more cohesive, inclusive settlements that draw people in and have more integrated societies? This is also from Gibberd, Nelson Mandela Bay. And you can see in terms of the still getting a little bit of, okay.
Sorry, Jeremy.
That's fine. So we don't have efficient urban form. We're getting the situation where many parts of the town are very low density, and then other parts are high density, and people have to spend a lot of time commuting, and it's very inefficient. And you can look at that in terms of costs, which is really the next slide. If we think of a house really as a kind of machine for living in, you'd ask the question whether using up 64% of your household income for housing, water, electricity, and transport really is a good use for services, and only 7% for recreation and health. So very important to kind of think through households, what they spend their money on, what's affordable, and how do you make healthy, productive, inclusive, sociable lifestyles easy and affordable, and not require, a huge amount of commuting, for instance. So how do you look at kind of local employment, etc.? Let me just let a few more people in. Sorry about that. Okay. The next one, we've all experienced this recently. A lot of our bulk services, so energy, water, particularly, but also solid waste, is increasingly unreliable. So how do we design housing for that? What can we look at in terms of local systems, microgrids, community initiatives, local entrepreneurs, really to develop much more efficient, much more affordable services. Culture and age, you will see in most settlements in South Africa, a whole range of different cultures. So different people from different tribes, different language groups, different ages. And one of the things that you need to do is really kind of think that through and how you make it a design that accommodates and is inclusive of the diversity of our population. Okay, I'm reaching the end. The last couple of things really to think about is also a lot of the kind of new ideas coming through. So a lot of you will come across artificial intelligence, new business models, things like Uber, Airbnb, co-living and co-working, which are much more efficient, much more social, types of living, a lot of new smart technologies, IoT, for instance, coming in, simulation and modeling. Hopefully, a lot of you are working with software that allows you to model different designs and test the energy and test different aspects for that. Digital twins, you may be aware of. Nature-based solutions, biomimicry, really kind of drawing on the best from nature in terms of inspiration for designs, regenerative, circular economy. I'll come back to some of these ideas in one of the later lectures. Bio-based materials, far more low impact. You can create local jobs, sustainable farming. The picture at the bottom is actually a building in Namibia built out of effectively mushrooms, micro-remediated materials. So there's a lot of interesting technology being developed. And so one of the things we would want you to do really is to find an area of interest, an area with a lot of potential, and use this competition to explore that to its logical extent. The last couple of slides are, we live in South Africa. It's still relatively new as a democracy, and architects have a very important role in kind of shaping the future. So, what do you personally want to live in as a country, as a city? What about others? Very interesting issue to talk through and get people's views and start getting to understand how people think and what are the aspirations, what do they want? And then start to think about whether it's achievable, especially if you look at sustainable development, sustainable goals, but also how you could achieve particularly the important things. So what is the development pathway? What are the steps towards that? And how do you chart that route? So there's some very interesting things that you can explore in terms of that. The very last slide that I'm going to now stop on is just to say what I've just covered, I'm going to put on a blog post, and I'll put a link. Francine, I think, will give links to various of the talks and this, so you can go and read this up in a little bit more detail. But really, to summarize, what is important is to get a key question, a key issue, and use that to focus your thinking. Research it very thoroughly, become an expert in that area, then conceptualize what this means from first principles. So start really from square one and kind of build a theoretical framework of how this may work. Do it very rigorously, pursue it to its logical conclusion, maybe then pull back if it goes a little bit too far, pull back a little bit, and then present it very well. And really, that's what the competition is about. It's an ideas competition for human settlements, for housing in city center locations. And we need solutions for this for, at least 2-3 million people in South Africa, and across the whole of Africa, many more millions. So thank you very much from me. Let me stop sharing. We will have some time for questions. I don't know if there's anything immediately that anyone has before we move on. So the structure of today is that Riëtte will now talk a little bit about the site, and then Francina will talk about the competition itself and some of the mechanics. Are there any quick questions before? We'll have time at the end for a bit of discussion and questions. So I'm not seeing anyone's hands. I think let's then move on straight away. So I think, yeah, Riëtte, please feel free to start whenever you're ready. Riëtte, will you introduce yourself? I know you a little bit, but yeah, I think do feel free to introduce yourself as well. Thanks, Riëtte.
Hi, everyone. hear me?
Yeah.
Right? And can everybody see the slide on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you, I see there's quite a few students from our department in this workshop. And yes, it's good to see that. Yeah, I am a senior lecturer at the Nelson Mandela University, and I have been here for just about a year. The 1st of April, it will be a year. So I am fairly new here. I've been living in Gibberd for 4 years now, so also fairly new. And I'm going to try my best to explain the slides to everyone and get into the context, etc. I think from the people that I saw from Nelson Mandela University, please raise your hands and free to add to what I am saying. It is really a workshop, but not a one-sided conversation. So yes, anybody who can add something, raise your hands, and we will talk to it. Is it okay with the organizer, Jeremy and Francine?
Riëtte, your sound is a little bit distorted. I see that there is a note in the chat box as well. The sound is distorted.
Yeah.
I thought it might.
I don't know exactly. Maybe I should switch off my video.
Yeah.
Does that sound better now?
Yeah. Try talking a bit closer to the video. That sounds better.
Maybe I'm not close enough. Is that okay for everyone? How does that sound?
It's still quite distorted. Perhaps try and mute yourself and unmute yourself.
How is it now? I do have a fairly fast internet connection.
It might be the internet. Riëtte, if I could ask you to just quickly log out and log in again. It's going to stall us for 2 minutes. Sorry about that. Thanks, Linky, for the comment in the chat. Because I thought it's only on my side. So it's always good if somebody leaves a note to say there's an issue. I'm sure Riëtte will log on in just a second.
Right. I think we've let everybody in.
I can always start with my part while we wait for it. If it's
let's give a minute
for another minute
to join, because I think it's always handy to just be around fly around the site a little bit.
Yeah, I must say,
maybe while if there are any questions, feel free. I think unmute yourself and do feel free to ask a question while we're waiting for Riëtte to come back in. Okay, here comes
I will say, there we go.
How does this sound now?
Much better.
Much better.
Okay, great. Yes, sorry about that. I did also a quick speed test. My connection is fairly strong, so yes. But if everybody can hear me, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do share your screen and then go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Presentation. Can everybody see this first?
Yeah.
These first slides? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Great. So today, the purpose of me being here is to talk to the location of your sites, the relationship with the city, the relationship with the surroundings, and then the typical features of the site. And I'm literally just gonna talk to what we can see, and also for the students who are not Gibberd based or Nelson Mandela Bay based, this is more informative, I think, than for the students who come from the Bay. And hopefully, but like I said previously, hopefully it can add some knowledge, and your inputs, the Nelson Mandela University students, could also share information that I am missing. Okay, so obviously we are looking at towards the Gibberd side, and yeah, it's on the southeast coast, so to speak. Just then zooming closer to the Eastern Cape, we all know the Eastern Cape, and then also particularly I just want to mention also the Eastern Cape is and our region specifically is prone to droughts, so that also take into consideration we don't have the amount of water that is available in Gauteng and the rest of the country. So yes, a drought stricken region, and that's very important to take into consideration. Then just in terms of the metro scale, the Nelson Mandela Metropole, you on the can you see my cursor? Everybody,
yes, can see
yeah.
your cursor.
Yes, we can.
So the northern suburbs, Motherwell, and then we get Kuga, our second port, and then the Sundays River breaking almost the two urban structures, and then we have the city center, and then to the west we also have a few outlying townships and other towns, industrial, the motor manufacturing town Dispatch and Uitenhage. Yes, then we have, if we go down south, we have New Brighton, and then Gorston, North End, and then finally we see the city center here, okay, which is called PE Central. And then from there on, we have Walmer, and the site that we are looking at is more or less located where my cursor is hovering right now. So yes, and then to the south of it, there are quite a few, or there is a large nature reserve area, protected area. So yes, that's just in short going from north to south. So yeah, but you can see there quite a variety in landscape, quite a variety in urban densities. So yes. Okay, going on to the next slide, just a bit of the demographic development of the metropole. So you can see it started with the bay area and the harbor area. So yes, there where my cursor is, we can see that there. And the city started to develop towards the north and then towards the west. Okay, a very little to the south. And we can talk about some history. First, Walmer was a separate town than Port Elizabeth, and eventually it got connected through the Target Kloof Road, and yeah, so then it became part of one of the suburbs of Port Elizabeth. So yes, you can see just how it expanded, and especially in the height of apartheid, you can see the vast expansion in from the 1950s to the 1980s, where you have displaced communities and so on. Okay. Bayanda, please mute. Thank you. Right, so there we can see a little bit closer into the city itself. I'm just always going to orientate you to where we are. So there you can see this is where the site is. This is the airport. Then obviously you can see the harbor, and then very important historic suburb is South End, because that is our region's District 66, where people were forcibly removed into yeah, the very lively district or suburb South End, and people were forcibly removed to outlying townships as well. So yes, and that's also quite close to the site where we are working in. Right. Any questions, comments up until now? I'm going through this fairly quickly just to familiarize you with this, and then we'll get into the specifics of the site. Nothing. Okay. Then going into the Walmer precinct at precinct scale. Yeah, just to orientate yourselves, we have the M9 cutting through Walmer actually, and historically the development of the Walmer town was just about, you can see this this rectilinear grid, and you can just look at this grid and how it's formalized, and there we know that's the that was the town of Walmer. You can actually see here, oh, we have somebody doing some markups for us, which is great. You can actually see here some of the main business arterials. There you can see that they're going all the way there. That's what we call main road warmer. We are going to zoom into that, but that was previously suburbia, but then all the houses were sold into businesses, and that is one of the main arterials connecting to the M12, which is William Moffat. And I'm specifically not using street names for now, because by just looking at this, you can see where the main arterials are, the main feeder routes, and so on. So yes, the airport, also a main feeder route there on this side from Summer Strand, and then also this year from this PE Central, which sits about here. Okay. Also, or just going back to the previous slide, the region, or Nelson Mandela Bay, is known for its valley systems. So you can see here there's a very large valley system, the Barkens Valley, going through here, and a few smaller ones. If you zoom in, there will be, you will see the connections. But if you see where my cursor is right here, you can see there's a big valley system here, and then smaller ones here, which at this stage, if you look at the historical maps and so on, they were quite large, but as the built environment took over, they became quite small. I'm not going to elaborate too much on that. Right, so you can see warmer suburb, so to speak, okay, but warmer precinct actually on the northern side of that main arterial, the M9. And then to the south, you will see the airport, and then a finer grain, which always gives us a clue that it has to do with previously disadvantaged groups, and then also informal self-built communities that is actually closer to the airport. Here you can see an industrial area that's almost being brought to a halt, where the development is naturally going towards the southwest of this area. The industrial development was halted by also the influence of the airport, the locality of the airport, and then also with the informal settlements going in there. And yeah, you can make an hypothesis for yourselves whether the one has halted the other or what happened, but you can just see that sudden break in the industrial fabric then versus the residential fabric. Right, so historically, what I was talking about was this is a 1902 map or plan, so to speak, a town planning map. Yes, you can clearly see here is a Barkens Valley, and then St. George's Park, which was already there in 1902, and this was all farmland and forests, etc. And then you can see here, this is more or less the location where the site is supposed to be here, and all of this was not there. And then the connection between there through Target Kloof, the connection was not there yet. So there you can see there was going to be a connection there, and that's the Target Kloof road that we know today. Okay, so it was a complete separate town or village. Interesting, yeah. So going back to the warmer precinct, here we have our main arterials highlighted. You can see there the east-west arterial and the north-south, which is William Moffat. Then we also have main road warmer, and we highlighted denser activities such as retail and industrial movement of people, etc. So there you can see there's an airport on this scale here. You can see this year highly active in terms of businesses and shops and so on. So almost like a coarser grain in terms of retail, etc. And then you have a fine grain retail here in Main Road, and that in turn connects to the warmer mall. Okay. And then also here, also starting with big box retail, and along William Moffat, you get the retail value, retail city, etc. So highly trafficable and highly trafficable. This is also very busy in terms of daily commutes, etc. So here is what we call the the center of the Walmer Township. There are civic facilities such as a library and so on. Walmer Township also has schools about here, and that's the main access to Walmer Township. We see it locally as the main entrance point into Walmer Township, and from there on you disperse. There is a so-called trade. What do you call it? A skills development center, but that's not used anymore as a skills development center. It's small retail on that corner there, and like I mentioned, there's a high school there, and there are a few primary schools, but I think if I'm talking under correction, there's only one high school. It's Walmer High in here. So yes, you can see more or less where it's located. Then the history of Walmer Township, it still remains one of the poorest neighborhoods in the Eastern Cape. You can read through this 70,000 residents. Also, again, with these high density townships, we do have the basic resources are needed. Water, electricity, etc. So you can read only 2 primary schools. Sorry, I thought there were more than 2. But yes, 1 high school and 1 clinic in the township. So yes. They live in self-built shacks or self-built houses. Unstable. You obviously know the ills, the social ills of our country, so I don't need to reiterate it, but you can carefully read this in your own time when you have access to this recording. Right, so it's very unique to other townships in South Africa. In 1898, white business owners and white households wanted their black workers to remain close to their property. So you can, if you think back, just going back quickly to this slide here, and for me, it's almost amazing, this huge, almost schism or divide that you have, and it's a very strange divide where you literally, I always talk about the suburbs being fairly close to this township here, which it wasn't in the apartheid eras. It was way on the outskirts of town. So and here you can see, because the housewives wanted their workers to remain as close as possible. So that's how Walmer Township was actually established. Just going back to that. So there are advantages of the area. It's very close to transport networks, etc. Going to work into the suburbs, informal work, etc. You can just imagine how easy you can get there by foot, but also going into town and people working in central, etc. That becomes slightly more difficult. But obviously transport, in terms of transport to the city and the closer outlying suburbs, even Summerstrand and so on, it remains fairly central, this township of Walmer. The host muted me.
Riëtte? Can you hear me, Riëtte?
Yes, go. Jeremy muted me. Sorry, Jeremy.
It must have been an accident. Sorry about that.
Keep the rest of the noise in the background a little bit.
But this is so interesting. Please carry on for us.
Yes. Okay, so yes, a very diverse township, and also a township that cannot actually sprawl cannot really happen. So what happens is it gets very dense and intensified, and also that comes with opportunities, and I almost want to implore the students to not look at what is wrong, but look at what is strong. So we always, as architects, we tend to say, oh, we can fix it like this, and we can fix it like this, and we come with our savior sort of attitude, and actually we miss what is actually working in townships like these. Okay, so yes, just let me go back or forward. Okay, now in terms of, you can literally see how the densities went up if you compare these 2 aerial photographs in 20 years almost, in 14 years when these two aerial photos were taken. You can literally see there's that, just to orientate yourselves, there's that Central Park and that Central Park there, how it actually densified. But due to airport traffic control and safety, there are areas that one cannot cross. So what happens when something cannot grow, it grows within, and you can see how dense this development or this township became. Okay, interesting features like that stormwater collection there, yeah, and like a stormwater management point, detention pond, and then also, yeah, like we mentioned there, you can see that main arterial going in, and there's sort of like a yeah, that cross grid or the star grid that you can see here going out, and then you get those formal Cartesian grids and a little bit of ring roads, not hugely connected, but yes, you can see that, and then some informal within the formal, some to the western side here. There's also small industrial, so a mix, not necessarily always the best mix, but a mix nonetheless. So yes, there you can see what's happening in broad terms. Okay, zooming in closer again, just to orientate yourselves, that main east-west arterial there, and then linking back into the suburbs from here, and then going back to the main entrance. There you can see I'm just drawing that main entrance line there that links back to 6th Avenue or with 6th Avenue, etc. There's the 6th Avenue shopping center area. Okay, so that goes all the way back there, and that's highly connected to the rest of the suburbs and actually the rest of Gqeberha, the central business districts. Okay, right here you can see the site in relation to the airport and the industrial area of the airport, and how it is almost prevented from moving out. And it's quite, yes, it's quite an interesting situation where it is densifying year by year because of the need for sufficient housing. And what is great, what you can look at is also that the formal grid was actually followed by the informal grid and taken through. So interesting phenomena happening here if you really start to look at it. And there you can see the extent of the site that you are working at. Okay, just a little bit of an angular bird's eye view, okay, just to see where we are working again. Industrial, okay, Builders Express, etc., big boxes here on this road here, and then you get the more informal self-built communities on this side here, and then that becomes formalized by previously known RDP developments, etc. So yes, also very close to these businesses and very connected. Okay. Yeah. Excuse the dog if sometimes we have the dog barking in the background, and I do apologize for those extra noises. Right, so just a little bit of the northern area of the site. You can see that there and how it's connected. You can actually see one of the valleys here in our valley system, there. Okay, actually beautiful area that. And there you can almost spot it, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, that's Target Kloof Road connecting Walmer to the rest of Gqeberha. It's not the only connector, but it's the closest connector to the city center. Right, again, this is the view towards the west. So there you can see the extent of that there. Also the view to the south. You can see there, this is all nature reserve or no build zones due to the location of the airport, and then this is the airport grounds. You can see there, this is where we park all the rental cars, etc. So yeah, not really much to say about that. Okay. Right. The east, also just viewing that arterial going through. And that's the main Alistair Miller. That's also a major connector to the airport and from the airport between the different areas of this this suburb. Okay, just a few 3D Google images, very rough, but you can see there's the residential street. That's what we call that. Okay. And then there's also the residential street, just the features of what it looks like in the Walmer township, or that's the southern Walmer suburbs. Right. And then we have the typical self-built character. You can just see what this is. Again, drought, actually, yes, or low water area, no, low water usage areas, and then the self-built communities, the tectonic, the materials, what they use, and so on. Okay, just a little bit closer of what it looks like. I think all students are familiar with this. This is not an anomaly in the South African context. So yes, that's why I'm browsing through this, not to make light of it, but you can see the street conditions. Also, large, almost like road servitudes, and then very disconnected to urban life, public street, etc., and also inefficient, unsafe, etc. That goes without saying. Real issues that we have. Okay. Then also you can almost look at the divide, people hanging on to land, waste management, obviously because people do not have the facilities, the waste management facilities, etc., within the township. Okay, the attempt of RDP houses, you can see that. You can see how people self-built their, according to their needs. You can also look at that in the fabric here, and then also physical barriers. Yeah. Okay, this is the narrow gauge railway line that's out of commission. Yes, there's a whole history if you're interested in that. It's the 24-inch narrow gauge railway line passing this site. Okay, so yes, that is also not working anymore. Not likely that this will be a stop, a narrow gauge stop. It was always more for tourism, etc. But nonetheless, it's there, and again, it's up to you in the end what to make of it. Okay, just looking at the industrial, not large industrial, but industrial nonetheless, and you can see that the resultant of that are quite vast impersonal spaces where people should navigate. Yeah. Okay, I think that is it from my side. I'm going to stop sharing and maybe try to show my face. Okay. Can everybody see me? I'm very careful. So are there any questions concerning the site? We went through this very quickly, but I think just time allows for this. And if there is anything, just shout. Yeah. If we have time for questions at the end, I think, yeah, it's depending on the organizers.
Thank you, Riëtte. I think that was a brilliant introduction. You kind of covered everything, which was great. I think if there are any burning questions, we'll certainly have more time at the end. Let me just have a look. Feel free to unmute and ask your question. Okay, I can see one. Larissa is asking, how do we get contours for the site? Any suggestions?
Okay. Let me just quickly, Larisse. Yes, I can maybe organize for you. We have software, I think all students use it. It's software that we call, or it's online based, CAD Mapper. That is quite a powerful contour generating tool. It's actually big contours, but I will definitely look into it and make it part of your competition brief package. I will also ask Clayton, who is part of the competition and more on the organizing side and connected to the students and me, but I will definitely raise that issue and we will provide it to you as soon as possible. The actual site, I see Pumelele asked a question of, can I ask if you have the actual size of the area of the site? We can do that. We can provide you with measurements. Yeah, Francine, we can maybe talk to that. So yes, I see you are touching on that.
Yeah. No, I think Francine will come back to the site because I think she's got quite a lot of information around that. But I think what we'll do is we definitely will gather a few more resources, including your presentation, which is, I think, very useful. So Francine will talk a little bit more about the size. Any last questions? Okay, existing features regarding the existing railway and access to site. I think Sipamandla, I think you're asking whether you can go to site. Is that the case, or? Sipamandla? Maybe just put yourself on mute if you want to.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So I just wanted to ask regarding the existing railway. Yes, she did explain, I mean, Riëtte person, she did explain that it's up to us on how we can like handle the existing railway on site. And I just wanted to ask, because there are many access on the sides, because also there's an access like right through where there is like an existing railway. So I wanted to ask on we can do anything on top of the railway. We can design our pathway and how to access the sites on top of it. We can do anything. There are no restrictions.
Not that I know of, no. So Francine is nodding her head viciously. And yeah, there is that railway, it is out of commission and we don't know if it's going to be part of it anymore. Perhaps you can design with the railway and you can in mind and make, yeah, I'm not going to put any ideas in your head because it's up to you to do with it. But perhaps one can respect the heritage of the railway and celebrate it. That would be a great and there are various solutions that you can have. So I just want to I want to just keep myself from all the ideas that I have in my head to share it with you. I'm not your architect. We are not your architect. So yes, you're the architect. And Sipamandla, I think that is good asking about the railway because it has some heritage significance and you can actually read up about it. It was the Apple Express. You can read up about it and the history of that and see if it informs any design decisions or not. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And also,
yep. Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, you were also talking about a few other access to the site, a few other modes where we're just talking about the railway. Sipamandla?
Yes, I was also talking about the access. I'm sorry, because I saw that there are too many like ways on how we can access the sites, but some of them they are actually coming from the informal settlement, and some of them they are coming from the main road, which the main road is next to the railway. So I just wanted to know on how.
Okay, so that is a main access point. Okay, this is actually the railway servitude, and once again, Francine is going to talk to this, but servitudes, etc., are not really something that we are concerned with right now. But you can see actually the built fabric built up to whether it's formal or informal, as far as possible, up to that servitude there. So access would be to the site currently here, but again, you can propose any access. If it's feasible, if it's viable, if it's, yes. And again, this is free for all type of territory. And architects will look at this, and professionals in the built environment will look at this and see if it can work. So, but it's up to you. Again, I'm maybe treading into Francine's territory, but it's really up to the minds, the creative minds of the young people to determine where you can access or not. Does that answer your question, Siphamandla?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool. Okay, there were other questions.
A quick question on recycling center and
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure. What I know is there are recycling centers all over Walmer Township. Please help me here, other NMU students. Oh yeah, there's one recycling center. Okay, so it's there. Was that the question? Is it still operational?
I think that's the question. Yeah, if it's still working in the operational side. So the answer to that, Laris, is yes. Here's a good example just shown on Google Earth.
Okay, and again, with informal communities, informal self-built communities, recycling is one of the main sources of income. And the way we talk in final year, the way we always talk, if you are going to go recycling, blah blah blah, follow the trash or follow the waste. And you will see in townships there are quite a few recycling areas, and in the formal and informal way. There is also a big recycling depot area also in this area here. They are called Green Cycle, I think. Yeah, so just look it up. There are quite a few initiatives in this area as well. Okay, Laris, happy?
Thanks. A couple of others. Can we revamp the functional railway? The whole idea with the competition is for you to look at a framework and set of ideas. So if it includes that, then include it. The same thing on kind of what you do with existing housing, etc. It's part of the competition. So there's nothing prescriptive. We don't kind of define what you should or shouldn't do. But obviously, it's about understanding, learning, and changing things. So yeah. So I think anything else? I think those are the main questions. I don't think there are any specific else. Shall we? We'll come back to questions. Let's maybe, Francine, are you?
I'm here and I'm ready.
Okay,
yes.
Good. You're
I
most
just need
welcome.
the screen.
Let me.
Thank you, Jeremy. Riëtte, are you busy sharing the screen?
Yeah,
thank you very much. First of all, let me just quickly thank Jeremy and Riëtte for the two absolutely fantastic PowerPoints. I think last year I gave a very quick presentation on the site that we used for last year's competition, and it wasn't a tenth as good as what Riëtte just presented. So students participating this year, you are better off already than students participating last year. So what I'm going to talk about today, very briefly, is just the competition process and just demystify some parts of it for you. I know when we started talking about this competition for the first time last year, January, I've never been involved in a competition ever before, except as a student participant. And so it was interesting for me to try and think, how would this happen? Of course, there was a lot of help, and all the professors that are involved have a lot of experience. But I look at this competition differently in the sense that it's wonderful, because I believe that the solutions to our country and our world's problem lies in the creative ideas of students. That's absolutely what I believe. And last year's competition just affirmed that. And I believe the same will happen this year. So let's quickly look at the competition. First, I want to talk about the sponsors. Jeremy already did, which is fantastic. But I also just want to say thank you very much to the National Home Builders Registration Council for sponsoring all the prizes and some, as well as Burgertman and Partners. Because of Burgertman and Partners sponsoring the printing, the competition is completely free. Every student group can submit only a PDF. You do not have to print it out. You do not have to courier it. You just send me a PDF and we print it here for exhibition and judging. I want to also thank Nelson Mandela University, who is managing the funds through Prof. Sijukule's office. And then, of course, the CIB that is involved with initiating this competition. Then, if you are new here, I know I'm preaching to the choir now, but somebody might look at this recording later and might have just had the link with them to them by a lecturer or a friend. If you just Google CIB sustainable housing, you don't even have to put in competition. You will see that you have two links right at the top there. Please note that one is for the 2023 competition. So focus on the 2024 competition, which is the second link. I often make this mistake. And in this link, you will see the page. You will be able to download the brief. If the brief updates, say we add the speakers for the workshops that we are still finalizing, we might have a revision. It won't be drastic changes. Then you can download the competition brief here. Or should you know of fellow students that want to participate, but it's not part of their syllabus, perhaps friends that you have in other architectural learning sites or other years that might want to take part. This competition for 2024 is not exclusively for third years. It's for any undergraduate year. Then this is a good link for them to follow. You can also register for the workshops. We will have 4 workshops and you can register for all of them here. Then back to the brief. The brief is very straightforward. You can read through the brief yourself, discuss it with your friends. Analyzing a brief is a part of what we learn in an architectural learning site, and it's a part of what we do as an architect. But I want to quickly talk about the site. Not that I have to. I think the information given to you in the previous presentation is sufficient enough for you to go forward on this project. But if you type in those coordinates or copy paste them from the brief into Google Earth, it will take you to the site. And then here's just a few images from this of the site. 3 kilometers away from the city center or from the city hall. So this is definitely a city center site. And then if I open it in AutoCAD, you will see that the northern boundary is 293 meters for the person who asked for dimensions, exact dimensions. And then the eastern boundary, you'll see it, the setback from the street, is about 307 meters. Now, round about the site is about 10 hectares. And it says so on the brief as well. So what is a hectare? A hectare is 100 meters by 100 meters. That is the area of a hectare. So should we place 100 meters by 100 meters onto the site? That's a hectare. So this site, I wiggled it, I changed it to be almost exactly 10 hectares. And that's interesting because we will be looking at density. And for sustainable human settlements and for sustainable housing, density is very important. 60 units per hectare, at least 200 people per hectare. We'll look at that a bit more next week. That compounded with the complexity of the site, the fact that it is informal, the fact that it is low density, or it looks low density. It might actually be high density, but it looks low density. Makes this quite a challenging site if you start to think about it. And on top of that, the brief has evaluation criteria, specific criteria that the judges will be looking at. Now, I won't be a judge. I will be taking in all your submissions and making sure that the judges has no idea which submission is from which school. But they will be looking at all of these. So please do read through them and try and list them on your presentation as well with these abbreviations. Accommodation schedule, this is where we get to the density. What is your overall coverage? What is your overall floor area? They are different. The number of occupants you anticipate, the number of units you anticipate. Some of you might be designing for the entire 10 hectares. Others might say, listen, I'm a second year. I'm only going to design for 1 hectare, and I'm identifying it here. That's fine. This competition is an ideas competition. We are looking for ideas, how to solve problems. So you are the person that decides on the parameters. You decide, do I want to clear all the houses and displace the people and come in and make a greenfield site or a brownfield site and build a massive high-rise apartment block? Or do I want to do the opposite and empower the people to refurbish their own homes? Or do I want to provide a framework for houses of the future? We don't know. We're looking forward to seeing what you propose and what density you can do it to. Now, the following key that we are asking you to use is directly connected to the prizes. Unlike other competitions, we don't just have 1, 2, 3, first, second, and third prize. We actually have 12 prizes, and we're looking at different projects to fulfill these different prizes. It is possible for one project to win 2 prizes. It did not happen last year, but it was possible. So please do look at this key as well and use these abbreviations. You might be a first year. You might decide, I'm only going to design a unit. There's a price just for a unit. I'm targeting that price. And then you might communicate that to the judges. The judging panel, Jeremy has already touched on that, but they're cool. I'm going to show you photos now. It's an extremely good panel. Yeah. Let's talk about the submissions. So I've said that you email the submission. You email it to the email address. It's a Gmail, CIB, City Center Sustainable Housing Design Competition at Gmail, I think. And you email me a PDF with only a number on the page. Straightforward and simple. It must be a PDF. It cannot be a TIFF file. It cannot be a InDesign file or a Photoshop file or a Corel Draw file. It has to be a PDF. And a few students fumbled there last year where they tried to retransfer an InDesign file, for example, or a TIFF file. So please pay attention to it being a PDF for us to print. Please pay attention to it being the right size. One student submitted what is in effect should be printed on A4. It was very small. It was a 297 by 210 exported. So when we printed out, it became very pixelated. So just check up on that. Now, I'm going to quickly talk about the judges. So I apologize. I should have spoken about the judges before starting to talk about the submissions, but I got carried away. So let's quickly talk about the judges, whom I think is so great. The judging is led by Prof. Jeremy Gibberd, who is the head judge. And you will see here's the panel, one person missing from this photo due to illness. And what they did is the morning they gathered for a cup of coffee and a chat about the brief and the competition. And the judging is, it's blind almost to an extent. All the submissions were pinned up in a very large studio space at the University of Pretoria, Bouwkunde. And the judges dispersed without talking to each other much. And they each individually assessed each submission. So every single submission that was submitted and printed was judged, were judged. We did not only choose 12 finalists or only 50 or only 20. Every single submission will be printed and will stand a chance to win a prize, which is unlike other competitions. And once the judges finished completing this individual assessment, they were all over the place, looking at submissions and then only discussing the submissions. And I think I captured the moment that the winner was chosen right here. So let's quickly look further at the submission requirements, forgive me. So backtrack to my speech of earlier of having the right size, having the right file, and then also having a number. It's very interesting that quite a few submissions last year did not have their number on the page. As per the brief, it's asked that the number allocated to you is in the bottom right-hand corner. If your number isn't there, I write it in with pencil. I just do it. It's not great. It is, however, interesting to note that of the 12 winners, each and every one of them did have the number on their page. So I'm not saying my handwriting influenced the judges. I'm just saying that some students, they go the step further and dot all the boxes. Those are students that grab a prize, except for one project that had the number in the top left-hand corner. That project won a prize. If you place a number in any area of the proposal, I will probably still write it in for you in the bottom right-hand corner. So please just note that it's better for you to place it on the page. Where do you get the number? You get the number from your lecturer. I'm going to issue numbers, different schools, all mixed up to different lecturers of the different schools. And then you will communicate to me the names of the students in your group when you submit your project. Some of you won't have lecturers that know that you're doing the project. You might be doing it incognito as a little project on the side. That's fine. Just email me and I will give you a number and we'll keep it between us. Unless you win, then I will probably announce it to your lecturers. This is the website address there as well. You can see CIB City Centre Sustainable Design at Gmail. Submission is, the deadline is the 17th of May. Please submit early. Please submit by the 10th of May at least. You will be asked to fill in a Google form as well, so that I have all your information. Copyright of submissions. We do use these submissions for research and to look at trends and to look at similarities. So please take note of that. And then the schools that are participating this year. 3 schools were added from last year. Last year there were only 10, now we have 13, and 1 international school as well. The University of Wyoming, where Prof. Tew helped us, and Prof. Tew is from South Africa, he's from Nelson Mandela University as well, construction management department, but he is now moved to the University of Wyoming. And we are doing an experiment to see, can international universities also help with the problem solving of the housing problem that we have in South Africa. So this is, there are our test subject, so to say. Now, teams must consist of 2 to 6 members. Last year, I received quite a few requests for single submissions, 1 person in the group. We did allow it, and I'm sure we'll allow it this year as well. But please note that it is interesting that of those that were 1 person, there were no winners. So the stronger projects or the more resolved projects, the more developed ideas came from groups where 2 or more people worked together. I discussed this with Prof. Jeremy beforehand as well, and we will also accept submissions from multi-year groups. You might have a linear studio or a linear studio project with a first year, 2 second years, 3 third years. That's 6 people. So that is also allowed. What is also allowed is, should you decide to have a person as a member of your group from other disciplines, such as human settlements, construction management, even biology. I know that I recently wrote an abstract for a pathology, architectural pathology. So you can look at other students as well to assist, give ideas, develop concepts, and form part of your team. That is allowed. Absolutely. So here's some important dates that you should know about, and here's the prize money. People, let's talk about the prize money. A lot of money and a number of prizes, and interesting prizes. Overall scheme, first, second, and third, same as last year. Sustainability prizes, environmental, economic, social, same as last year. And then we added 3 merit prizes. We added the future strategy. And as Jeremy have just spoken about the climate ecological breakdown, the climate emergency we are all facing. It's March, I'm sitting in Hatfield, Pretoria, and I just switched off a fan because it is scorching hot. And then we have rain. I've never seen rain like this in Pretoria, storms like this, even in winter last year. So climate change is real, and the climate ecological breakdown is real. And this climate emergency, we must design for it. So this future strategy is an extremely important prize, self-built and sufficiency. How do you interpret sufficiency? How would you facilitate through your design self-built so that those who currently live on the site can densify their homes? It might be multi-generational people that are living on the site, that have had a home that they inherited from their grandmother. And then a unit design. The unit design is especially also targeting lower students, lower years, not lower students, lower years, first year, second year, not only third year. And then the innovative building technology is the same price as last year. These are the winners of last year's competition. The 12 winners. And as you can see, every project is different. And I'm quickly going to take you through it. This is the first prize, the second prize, and the third prize. And it's interesting because each one of them come from a different university. And each of these proposals are drastically different from the other. It's extremely interesting. The most interesting part about the third place winner is that this was one of 2 submissions. Only 2 submissions from UJ, which means that UJ has a 50% chance of winning a prize. That's their track record so far for this competition. Then the center one there, the second place, comes from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And I would just like to single out this project as well. It was interesting because I only received 1 project from CPUT. And I immediately contacted the lecturer and said, where's the rest? And they only submitted the best project. I understand that in a studio, a lecturer might not think that the student or their work is, there might be concerns of the quality of the work. But I would like to encourage you, submit everything. Submit every single project. And CPUT then did that. They submitted more projects when I asked for them. And those projects were also excellent. I saw the judges lingering with those projects as well. And then first prize went to a Nelson Mandela project. And I want to talk about this first place project as well, because looking at it again today, I realized that this concept might translate across sites. It might be good for other sites as well. So when you look over this PowerPoint again and look at what was submitted last year, please note that the judges remain the same from last year. So even though these ideas are all very good, I would encourage you to not just simply reuse them, even if they can be reused, but to take them and adjust them, make them site-specific, should you be able to, and have that be the swing on your project. This first place also, you can see, with a competition like this, you can almost see trends across schools. And that was also visible with this especially with Nelson Mandela. And the next 3 prizes are prized. These were excellent projects from 3 different schools. And what was interesting about the one from UCT is that they plugged into natural systems. Last year's project had water next to it from Walker's Water Sprite, and they plugged into it. So you also have water nearby your site. And you also have other natural systems that you can plug into. So look over those, absolutely. And then the Innovative Building Technologies and Indigenous Materials Prize. This is technically also a first prize. This is technically also a very big prize, as this is an 8,000 Rand win. And an excellent project from Nelson Mandela. 2 excellent projects from TUT there as well, both receiving an honorable mention. Now look at the 2 honorable mentions in the center and to the right. These are unit designs with good ideas. Each and every one of these projects are singled out by the fact that there are excellent ideas and that there are different ideas. they're not necessarily the best with being site applicable, or the best with addressing density, or the best with ticking all the boxes, but they ticked some boxes and also gave ideas that the judges, that one, they didn't know about, as Dr. Jennifer said with the first prize, and two, that inspired them. And then three more honorable mentions. I want to talk about the first one there, also from UCT, honorable mention. This was an interesting project, and I'm singling it out because when this project was submitted, I received 2 mails from 2 different people with the same number and what looked like the same project. And it looked like this person only designed one part of the site, and another person then developed a different part. So I contacted the 2 students and asked, what's going on here? And they were under the impression that they did the design together and then they submit separately and present separately. So I explained to them 1 A1 submission per group and not 1 A1 per person in the group. Another group did this as well. So please just be careful. 1 submission per group, and that only 1 person should submit. If more than 1 person submits, then we might end up printing 2 copies. So 1 only 1 A1 per group. And we need for the certificates. For questions, I just want to close off by saying also, I'm so surprised by seeing so many participants today. Thank you so very much for that. Especially with tomorrow being a public holiday. We won't keep you for long still, but I do encourage any and all questions. Please, folks, go ahead. Don't be scared. Even if you're only a first-year student, ask away.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Francine and Riëtte. I think we've given lots of information and ideas, hopefully. So do you want to switch on your cameras? I think, and either unmute yourselves or post in the chat any questions. Would you consider a team with a postgraduate student in the team?
It depends on whether it's an architecture postgraduate student or whether it's from a different department. Postgraduate architecture student, no. A doctorate student in medicine, yes. Jeremy, what do you think?
I think just to add to that, one of the things that we certainly want to, if you look at the prizes, if you look at the way we've framed the competition, it's about sustainability. It's about the mechanics and how systems work. So you certainly may want to borrow someone who understands all sorts of different things, new materials, who understands, you know, how urban agriculture works, how water systems work, etc. So there's no limit in terms of drawing in specialists, people who can be creative and give you the science. What Francina is saying, I think the actual students, architectural students themselves mustn't be, you know, a full-blown architect or someone in the, you know, the later years. All right, some more questions. A good question. Any others? Riëtte, I don't know if have you got any other things you want to add? I think yours was very good presentation just to understand the site. Okay, let me maybe ask any questions about the site. We've got Riëtte here, who I think looks like she knows the site extremely well. Looks like she probably passes it twice a day and maybe goes through it every now and again. So please feel free. It's your chance. The whole idea behind these workshops is really to be informal and just ask whatever questions you want to. So please go ahead.
I think everybody's in a long weekend mode. We have a university holiday on Friday, so so yes. But if you have anything, speak now.
And also, if you don't speak now, you don't have to forever hold your peace, because we have a workshop again next week. So
actually, yeah, Francine, do you want to go through? I think that's quite important, certainly before we close, because I think we're just maybe go through next, while people are thinking about questions, go through next week's workshop.
Yeah, we will be looking at Prof. Sejukule will be speaking. He's from Nelson Mandela as well. And he has, 1 second, let me just quickly open the brief. So Prof. Sejukule will be speaking for 20 minutes. And we will also have someone from the Department of Human Settlements. There's a new or a draft white paper that have just received comments. And the white paper previously was very, very important to solving the problems, the housing problems that we face. So we will have someone from the Department of Human Settlements talk about the new draft white paper as well, to give clues and to give ideas problems for you to address, but also guidelines on how to address it. The problem with the white paper is it doesn't actually have the solution there, or the ideas, the kind of ideas that we're asking you for. You are the laboratory that we are hoping will filter through and ruminate on this new white paper and give us ideas to actually solve the problems that South Africa face. So next week, same time, same place, online, 1600 hours, we will look at affordable housing development and delivery policies, Department of Human Settlements. We will look at new initiatives and approaches for human settlements from Prof. Sejukule Mbanga. And if there is time left over, I will talk a bit about density, maybe some self-build, maybe some units, look at what has been done, or good, I wouldn't say the best or appropriate, I would say good housing solutions that become the precedents that you might use going forward with this project. And then we will have a project again on the 3rd of April and on the 10th of April, after which we will conclude. Then you have 6 weeks to finish up the project.
Yeah. Let me, maybe just to add to what Francine has said, what is very interesting about having a new housing policy is that you can read through it and you can look at it and say, you know, what does this mean? Because it talks about informal settlements. It talks about climate change. It talks about climate mitigation. It talks about the different routes, the different housing models that you can use. So I think just as an education, it's useful to read. But what also is important is to say, how do you turn this into a physical project, into and actually show it, label it, show it. It's a very useful exercise. And one of the things we are doing, and why we're deliberately involving human settlements at the next meeting, and then obviously during judging and during the entries, is to say, these are some ideas. So at the end of this competition, we're going to share, you know, a lot of the material quite widely, social media, directly to different departments. So we want really good ideas, well presented, that will change things. And that's the thinking. So that's really why we're having a bit of a session next week, to kind of really thresh through policies and ideas. The one following that, we're going to look a little bit at kind of design generation. So, you know, the kind of Einstein's view is that if you carry on with the same thinking, you'll get the same solution. How do you get new solutions? You know, so how do you design differently? You know, what are your methodologies? What are your sources of inspiration? So we'll have a little session on that. We'll then have a session on criteria. So if we talk about sustainability, Francine's already mentioned density. Those are quantitative things. They're targets. There's something specific. And if you don't set yourself a target, it's very difficult to achieve particular performance. So there'll be a session really on kind of what are the criteria, what is the framework for measuring sustainable building, sustainable housing, human settlement performance. So we'll have a session on that. And then the last thing, which I'm going to look forward to also at that session, we will have some really good case studies. Gitta Govan last year did some fantastic case studies, well thought through in terms of kind of where things are going. So that session will be very interesting. Do you want to talk about the last session, Francine?
Last session, 1 second, please.
So the last sessions, we'll be looking at indigenous
knowledge systems, sure.
So indigenous knowledge systems. So again, culture, very important. And how do we look at kind of historical patterns of living, culture, how people relate to each other, roles, very important, children, women, all of those sorts of issues.
And
another
then
very
Isaac
interesting,
as well.
yeah. So
The last
yeah.
Isaac
So
from the national, yeah.
Go ahead.
From the NHBRC, that is an extremely interesting presentation. The research that they do at the NHBRC will be presented, and also they also have tools to look at different building materials, different building techniques, and how buildings, houses specifically perform. They even have a laboratory where they build the house and then observe it. It's like a testing laboratory, a full-scale real-life testing laboratory. So that's an interesting workshop to attend as well. And all of this is information that we're giving you that might assist your idea development, but none of it is prescriptive. Please note that it's only ideas for you to go forward and then give us your creative ideas as well. Who is scared? Who is apprehensive?
Yeah, last time we had a lot of discussion.
Yeah.
Riëtte, I think, Riëtte, please just join in. I think
Riëtte's
don't
scared.
worry
She's
about.
got her hand up.
Yeah. No, sorry, there was a question regarding the brief where it explains about the existing housing units. So it says there, are we allowed to remove them or should we include them in our designs, etc.? And I think we can just reiterate again, Francine, yeah, you can just reiterate whether you, that's ultimately your decision, isn't it, Francine?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Some people, like I've said previously, and I'm not making this decision for you. I'm saying some of you will give us an excellent project and you would have said, we've removed everyone from site and we put them in hostels in a different town. But look at this wonderful building that we now have, and you might win a prize. Other people might say, whoa, we're not going to do this. There are people living here. We need to have a finer grain proposal, and they might win a prize, or they might not.
So I think the important point, hopefully, that's coming through.
We have no idea.
Yeah. Sorry, Francine, anything else?
No, absolutely. Okay. So just tell us what you do in your presentation. Yeah. Say, clear the site, or the people that are currently here, this grandmother that has been living here for 80 years, that was born here, we would like to provide a home for her. Or we believe we can give her a better home, and we therefore took away her home and gave her another one. Or this Oma shouldn't live here at all. We only should have students here. I don't know. That is up to you.
So I think just the last slide that I presented kind of gives a bit of a structure. So it says we are not prescribing things. The best way to learn is really to kind of really understand existing patterns and new models and ideas and test it. So a lot of what we're going to be doing in these 2 or 3 sessions is giving you ideas, and I think your lecturers and around you will have a lot of ideas to think through. But what we are asking you to do is to be quite rigorous and really think through the conceptual approach to it. One of the things that's very important is to be able to really have an evidence or science-based approach. So the CIB is a research organization. It's all the top building universities internationally, quite a lot of the local ones. So one of the things that will always come through is some evidence base, some quantification, some base that you use to learn from and build from. So I think just bear that in mind. It's not to say that, you develop something that looks like a chemical equation. It means that you try and do both. You capture the art, the beauty, and you capture the science and the systems, and you make it work. And that's very much one of the things that I know the judges are very keen on. It's just this being able to look, at a major problem in a very clear way and work through it. All right.
I think there's one more question. It says, regards the brief where it explains about the housing units. Can you please clarify more on that? I will next week. I'll show you a hectare and I'll show you what 60 units look like, the different ways you can configure it, and very conceptually, not prescriptive. But of course, you can have 60 units in a tower. The next question is there a height restriction? No, there isn't a height restriction. But take note of your context and take note of the airport. So you might have 60 units stacked on top of each other. You might have 60 units in courtyards. You might have 60 units like RDP houses next to each other. All three of these approaches are wrong and right, depending on how you present it and how, like Jeremy said, you give us evidence, you give us science, you give us your idea, your concept, and how you've pulled it through. I hope that answers the question as well. These are good questions, folks. Any other questions before we finish off? And go and have a long weekend? Would everybody please, if you are able to, may I ask, if you want to be in a screenshot that I'm going to place on LinkedIn, please switch on your camera if you are willing for a let's post it on social media and see a lot of other people. Hey, there's a few people.
There we go.
This is Sylvan, who has drawn on he started drawing on the site plan, which was fantastic, or the locality, the aerial view. If anybody else is brave enough,
couldn't help himself.
I think I've just scared him off.
Yeah, switch on your cameras, say hello. Great, I see a few people. Okay, great. Yes. There we go. Part of what Francina does is she gets a lot of publicity. So, yeah.
We had a few groups as well, which was fantastic. Cameras on if you are willing, but no, I'm seeing only 3 or 4 people, and then they remove themselves again because they're too scared. Anybody else willing? Folks, I've got 5 takers. Be brave, be brave, be seen as well. It's good to be seen on social media. I'm giving it a few more minutes for people to take a deep breath, fix their hair, put on some clothes, put away the beer. Anybody else willing? I don't have a full page yet. Okay, I'm going to take a screenshot of the ones that I have. Thank you very much for everybody willing to give us a big smile. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much, folks. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. There's some laughter there as well. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks a lot. Same time next week, 4 o'clock. Same link, so everything should work again. Fantastic. Okay.
Thanks
a lot.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.